Okay, so the use of smartphones has become very wide in keeping everybody connected in today's generation. But this poses many risks when people choose to text and drive. What I plan on talking about today is the problem involving texting and driving, why we text and drive, and how we can prevent texting and driving in the future. So if all of you can take out your cell phone right now and look at the last texting conversation you had, and on the note card I provided you with, please write down the first 4 words of the last text you sent. Nobody else is going to see it, so don't worry. The fact of the matter is that it only takes about an average of 5 seconds for you to take the eyes off the road when choosing to look down at your phone to either read or text or send a text message. To put that into perspective, that's like traveling the length of a football field at an average rate of 55 miles per hour. And like we know, the Parkway, we travel at 65 miles an hour. Many of the times we're traveling even faster than this. So imagine all the things that could possibly go wrong in that 5 seconds. All the different things that can change in the length of a football field. That's an extremely long distance. Or think about the things you cannot miss, whether it be a light post, a median swerving in and out of your lane, whether it be the taillights of an unexpected braking car in front of you, or worse, a man on a bicycle, or even a child running after a man on a bicycle or a child running after a basketball. The fact of the matter is that when you choose to text and drive, you're 23 times more likely to cause a car accident. According to the United States Department of Transportation, it notes that cell phones are the cause of 1.6 million crashes a year, over 500,000 injuries, and 6,000 deaths. So imagine that, 6,000 deaths. That's like a little more than a Rider University disappearing every single year. Imagine the size of Rider. We're a small private school, but imagine if this school disappeared every single year. That's how many people we're losing due to texting and driving. 1 out of every 4 car accidents, according to Snyder and Edgar, they're a law firm that represent injured people, say that 1 of every 4 car accidents in the U.S. is caused by texting and driving. And according to the CDC, each day in the U.S., 9 people are killed and over 1,100 people are injured. That's more than 75% of this class dies every single day due to texting and driving. What makes texting and driving so dangerous is the fact that there are 3 different types of attentions of distraction. There's cognitive, which involves our brain. Every time that we choose to read or send a text, we're taking our mindset off of the fact that we are driving. There's visual. Every time we look down at our text message, we're taking our eyes physically off the road. And then there's manual. Every time we hear a notification on our phone go off or vibrate while driving, we're either reaching for it, we're either pressing buttons on our phone, or even sending a text message itself. Over the past several decades, drinking and driving has been a major cause of car accidents in the United States. But the fact of the matter is that drinking and driving accidents are actually decreasing over the past 5 to 10 years. And what is quickly taking its place is texting and driving. So imagine this. How many of you would go to the pub after class tonight and drink 4 beers and then possibly drive home? Probably none of you, right? Well, according to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, texting while driving is actually 6 times more likely to cause a car accident than driving when intoxicated. Because a lot of the things that impair us while drinking and driving is exactly what impairs us when we text and drive. We're more likely to not be able to hit the brakes on time. We're more likely to follow closer to the car in front of us. And we actually spend an average of 11 minutes every year outside of our lanes when we choose to text and drive. To put this into perspective, I did some research and found that Car and Driver magazine, which I'm sure a lot of you have heard of because they do a lot of research on cars, did a review where they actually placed a red light camera or a red light on a dashboard of a car, and they wanted to understand how bad texting and driving is compared to drinking and driving. Well, every time that they lit up that light, the driver was supposed to stop. So they tested somebody who was not impaired and sober, someone who was reading an email, someone who was texting and driving, and someone who was actually drunk at the legal limit of 0.08. What they found was someone who was not texting and unimpaired took 0.54 seconds to hit the brake. Somebody who was drinking only needed an extra 4 feet than that, because at the same time they may be drunk but they're focusing on the road. Somebody who was reading an email, that cognitive part, had to add 36 more feet. and a whopping 70 feet was needed for texting and driving, because we're taking all three of those attentions away from the fact that we're driving, and it's hard for us to take the three cognitive things of a visual, cognitive, and manual that we need for driving and do the same thing for texting and driving at the same time. So there seems to be a misconception. There seems to be a huge discrepancy in our thoughts. We all know that texting and driving is wrong, but how many of you probably did it today? Okay, so a study was done by AT&T for It Can Wait campaign, which was a mean of 1,004 participants in ages 16 to 65 who drove almost every single day and at least texted once a day. And they found that 98% of those people find that texting and driving is dangerous, although 74%, almost 3/4 of them, admitted to still texting while driving. The fact of the matter is right now, there's about 660,000 people attempting to use their phones while behind the wheel of a car. And now, constant, any time of the day, 600,000 people are attempting to use their cell phones behind the wheel of the car. So in order to understand and try to avoid using our phones while driving, we need to understand why do we text and drive. And we have this need to constantly feel connected. And we can blame that in the chemical in our brain called dopamine. Dopamine is what makes us feel happy. And every time that we hear our phone go off, we get this urge or this impulse to check that. Why? According to David Greenfield, who is the founder of the Internet and Technology Addiction Association, states that every time we hear our phone go off, we have this impulse to check our phone. Why? Because we don't know whether or not that dopamine hit is going to make us feel good or not. And depending on what our text messages, our emails say, may give us that hit, but it also may not. So we have this impulse to reach for our phones even while driving. The other reason is, I don't know if you've heard of this, is FOMO, which is the fear of missing out. We always are on our Facebook wondering what other people are doing. We constantly don't understand as a generation, as millennials, that how to entertain ourselves. When was the last time you sat quietly by yourself and felt comfortable with it? We're constantly on our phones looking down even when we're walking. And the fact of the matter is that we suffer from anxiety that is caused by what other people are doing and we're so interested in. The other reason is driving, we feel good, like we're good at it, right? Oh, I can text and drive. I've done it 1,000 times. Nothing's ever happened to me. Well, a study from the University of Utah indicates that the reaction time of a teen driver using a cell phone is that of a 70-year-old who's not driving. How many of you have been driving behind somebody and honking your horn and cursing at them, and just to drive by to see that it's a 70-year-old individual? It's you every time that you look down and see your phone. So what can you do? All our phones are capable of airplane mode. We can even turn them off. I know a lot of you may experience anxiety when turning off your phone, so either airplane mode, or we have glove boxes that we do not put gloves in. We can put our phones in. We have trunks. Put that junk in the trunk. You can put that, you can hide it away. And if you have a newer phone, a newer car, your Bluetooth is still going to connect to your Bluetooth in your car. I know sometimes I don't text and drive anymore due to a car accident that I was in back in 2009 when I was a senior in high school. That picture that I showed you in the beginning, that was actually my car, where I wasn't texting and driving, but I was actually typing on a GPS an address that I wanted to go to, where I hit a tree on my driver's side door going 65 miles per hour. That's the only thing that I remember from that entire car accident, was typing into my GPS. I woke up the next morning unaware of what happened, and luckily I survived. But what you can do, these are some of the things that you can do is to get the phone out of reach. Speak up. A survey was done by AT&T that said that 90% of people say that if a friend asked them to stop texting, they would do so. 44% said that they would be thankful if a passenger did ask them to stop texting while driving. 78% of teen drivers said that they're not likely to text and drive if friends tell them it's wrong or stupid through word of mouth. And lastly, 93% would stop if a parent in the car asked them to. I doubt you drive around your mom on your phone because you know that they're going to have thoughts about you. Or the second you hear your phone, you better not pick that up. You better put that phone down. You wouldn't do it with your mom in the car, so why would you do it when they're not in the car? So another thing that we could do is actually use our phones to prevent us from using our phones. There's a bunch of social media, music apps, or Audible. I don't know if any of you guys listen to Howard Stern, but he's a huge thing on Audible. I know I personally listen to Howard Stern, and I safely distract myself. I get lost in the radio or in my music. Make a playlist prior to driving, listen to that, and put the phone out of reach in the glove box or the trunk. There's also apps that prevent texting and driving. such as Texecution. There's also Drive Mode that's promoted by AT&T, and they all work differently, but for the most part, some either answer text messages automatically for you saying that you are driving. Some actually disable texting depending on the amount of miles per hour that you're driving. If you're driving at 10 miles per hour or more, Texecution will actually disable you from even looking at your text messages. So in conclusion, texting and driving affects more than just you. You can truly injure yourself, you can injure others, you could even kill or kill yourself. Are the consequences truly worth it? You wouldn't drink and drive. Nowadays with Uber and everything, we plan accordingly if we're going to go out to drink. So why would we think that we can text and drive? And is it simply worth the consequences? So tonight, I dare you to go home and put your phone in your glove box before driving home, and take that card with the last 4 words and put that between your laps instead. Are those 4 words that you wrote down on that note card worth dying for? You let me know.